Alright guys, what's up Twitch? What's up YouTube? It's FJ, and it's been a while since I've been on here. This is BrackCast number 64, and this is going to be a bit of a catch-up. Also talking about some recent news, and maybe just hanging out, tell you what's been going on with me. Just gonna go post this on my Instagram that I am live now, and that's good to go. So yeah, it's been a lot going on in the last couple of weeks. I was supposed to have, I was supposed to host the BrackCast last week. Forgive me for missing last week. I had a photo shoot in the evening, and I thought I'd make it back in time, but I ended up going later that night, so I wasn't able to make it back. And by the time I got home, it would have been too late to start the BrackCast. So I held it off for a week. I had to work today. You can see what I'm wearing today. I had to work all day today as well on a corporate sales conference, and I still managed to get back and host this BrackCast 64 today because I didn't want to miss two in a row. We're waiting for Deji. He should be coming in a little bit of time. He's just running a little late as well with traffic. But guys, I just wanted to kind of talk about what's been going on with me first before we get into the verdict, the big news that was just this week, just yesterday. But what happened with me last Monday, not this past Monday, but 2 Mondays ago, I would think that maybe this is when you throw out your back, but apparently it's not throwing out your back because I wasn't doing anything crazy. All I was doing was sitting down. So I had like a plate of food. Like the previous day I shot an event, tiring event. I was sore, normal amount of tiredness after like a photography event. And the next day, I got up tired, sore, but I still cleaned, I cooked, I walked around, and I did a bunch of stuff around my house. And then I went to eat, so I put my plate down. It was this chair actually. I had a plate in my hand, and I just went to go sit down. And when you're about to sit down, the last 1 to 2 inches above the seat is when you kind of let go of your weight. So I was like here, and then I got to here, and then I guess I let go, and I put my plate down, and immediately I felt this sharp pain on my lower back, and I was like, what's happening? It was kind of radiating out from my lower back. So I was like, I bent over forward a little bit. I was like, that's not helping. And then all of a sudden I collapsed. I didn't collapse, but I went down to the floor in my fetal position because I couldn't move. I couldn't move without pain. So I'm in my fetal position on the floor, still hurt. Because when you're in your fetal position, your back's still not straight and relaxed. My core was still engaged. So then I managed to crawl to my sofa, and I lay there. I tried to lay flat on my back first, but because when you lay flat on your back, your butt sticks out. So then that actually lifted my midsection, which engages my core. So that hurt. Yes, I lifted my knees, which helps. If you lift up your knees, your butt kind of it moves under you and away from you, so it doesn't lift up your midsection as much. That helped a little bit. Eventually I rotated my knees to the side while my shoulders were still up. I called some friends, I called my landlord, I called my parents, and I was freaking out because I didn't realize just how often I engage my core for almost all my movements. But anything that engaged my core hurt so much. So my immediate thought was it has to be a pinched nerve. Because I was sitting down linearly, I didn't do some crazy twist or some crazy lift sideways or something like that. It was just so linear. So I'm pinched nerve, could it be sciatica or a what's it called, a slipped disc herniated disc. I googled it and it sounded like one of those, but probably the pinched nerve. Anyway, so my parents had to come over. Thank you to my parents. I told them not to come. I didn't want them to worry, but they came anyway because they knew I couldn't move. I was crawling to open the door. Luckily, my landlord's wife was home, so she let my parents in. They gave me a back brace so I could take the load off of my back. They put some like BioFreeze muscle relaxant rub on my back, on my lower back, and they gave me Aleve. I took an Aleve. And then, yeah, maybe 10-20 minutes. By then I started to be able to like go upright. And then eventually I was able to stand up. I could start to move around because I guess the pain subsided, the pain kind of relieved on my back. But I realized this back brace really did take away a lot of the pressure that like sits on your lower back when you're just like engaging your core. I realized though, and I knew too, I felt it, like I didn't want to become dependent on the back brace. And it just so happened too, last week I would have had to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I would have had to do photo shoots all those days. I ended up having to reschedule my Tuesday one because I was worried it might happen again or I wouldn't be able to move enough. Yeah, it was pretty scary. But it's been a week, a little over a week now. It's Thursday. And guys, like, it's like I'm normal again. I'm scared to like do some crazy stuff, but I feel like it's gone. You know, I'm a break dancer. I dance. I do a lot of photography, lifting, squatting, and I work out, and I'm very athletic. So I don't know. There's like a little reminder there, like, hey, remember you had a pinched nerve last week. But at the same time, I feel very much like I'm normal again. I'm moving around, I'm lifting heavy equipment, I'm working. So I spoke to the doctor and they're like, yeah, if it was a herniated disc or a slipped disc, likely it would take much longer than a week to recover, you know? He's like, at least a couple of weeks to a few weeks. And yeah, I took pain medication for like, I don't know, 5-6 days in a row after it happened. I rubbed the muscle relaxant on my back like twice a day for like 5-6 days. I guess that helped. I only wore the brace for my first photo shoot on the Wednesday. It was a 4-hour shoot. I felt like I probably would have needed it, and yeah, it helped. But I googled it, and like apparently you shouldn't be wearing a back brace for longer than 2 hours. You don't want the muscles to deteriorate and like weaken because you become so dependent on the back brace. So after that first day, I basically stopped wearing it. I didn't want to wear it anymore. Still sore Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but you know, I was working again normally on Saturday. I was working again even better on Sunday. And then by Monday, 1 week later, I felt like I didn't have to take the pain medication anymore. I felt like I didn't have to apply the BioFreeze or muscle relaxant anymore. Tuesday, I worked. Wednesday, I worked. And today I worked all day. It was like a 13-hour day today. And I seem to be fine. Like I feel like I can dance again and stuff, but I'm scared. I'm scared like I'll do something and it'll like happen again. The most scared I am is when I'm about to sit down because I don't want to repeat that motion. So like, I'm nice and slow and I want to be slow with my sitting down. And hopefully, it doesn't happen again. It would be so bad if it happened again while I was working. That would just be so bad because it basically rendered me like useless. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. For at least an hour or 2 hours, I was just motionless. I had to stay motionless because any kind of twist or turn hurt so much. Anyway, so that was what happened with my back in the last week. Luckily, I'm okay again, working so much again. So there's that. In terms of the verdict, so I was trying to like kind of hold off on talking about the verdict. Oh, let's see if anyone's going to be able to join soon. But so a couple things. First, obviously, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. The verdict was just given out yesterday, June 1st. But also there was a new verdict today. There was the Canadian provincial election. And I was supposed to vote. I knew who I was going to vote for. I don't think it would have made a difference. But turns out Doug Ford is once again the Premier of Ontario. PC Progressive Conservative Party. How do I feel about that? I don't really know. I don't know if it's gonna make much of a difference, but at least he has experience in the position. He seems like he cared. His heart was in the right place during COVID, and I don't know if anyone could have really been prepared for COVID or made the right calls during COVID, but the good intentions were there. I think the effort was there, hopefully, and there's nothing much more I could really ask for. A lot of people can complain about government, and they may be more involved with trying to read the platforms and really seeing where the vote goes. Lately, I'll just be straight open with where I'm leaning politically, but the Green Party has got my eye lately. Growing up, I was a kid. I didn't really have an opinion politically, so I basically followed majority what my parents were feeling, or my teachers in school, and it was very liberal kind of federal vote for Canada. And yeah, it was around time with Jean Chrétien. That's when I was first introduced to the Canadian political scene. So that was, I was pro-liberal. I was anti-PC because I was pro-liberal. Bloc Québécois, I just knew that they were people who wanted to leave Canada. They didn't want to be a part of Canada. They want to separate. And then all the other ones were too small to care, like Orange Party, NDP, New Democratic Party, and then you got the Green Party. But then as I got older and I really started to think about okay, democracy, trying to get involved, I do think, if you have the opportunity to vote, you should. And all it takes is, do a quick read over of the platforms of each party. And what ended up happening though growing up was a lot of the times it was just between PC and liberal. And I've noticed people vote tactfully or strategically based on those two possible majorities or minority governments, because they're the two strong competitions in Canadian politics. And so people would just vote for the one they thought that they didn't want to win. Or even if maybe you don't completely agree with liberal, if you just didn't want PC to win, you vote liberal. Or opposite, if you didn't want liberal to win, you vote PC, because any other party that you vote for isn't going to get enough votes to really make a difference. But then as I grow up and I think about democracy, when I read the platforms, yes, it's kind of clear that when you see the targets of the liberals or the PC, because they're so much more experienced in the previous years with government policy, their targets seem to be more realistic or manageable. But some might feel maybe the targets are too safe, trying to push green energy, or cut carbon emissions, or spending, or budget cuts and taxes and all this stuff. But I started to think, okay, well, I'm more of a black and white idealist, so I wanted to vote that way. If you can't vote for really what you want, even if it's a little bit idealistic and maybe hard to reach, then what's the point? So I switched from liberal to NDP a couple elections ago, because I felt, what, liberals and PC have had their time. It's time for a new face, someone maybe, I don't know if the right thing to say is to stir things up in Canada, but like, so at that time, yeah, I voted orange, NDP, Jagmeet. You know, he's very much like a face of like immigration, I guess, in Canada, or like the diversity, multiculturalism in Canada. Um, Again, didn't make so much of a difference in the final count. But then even further from that, lately I've been gravitating towards the Green Party because their targets aren't just about being realistic or like attainable, but like it's what the targets need to be to for change, like actual change in like uh global warming, or you know, yeah, like I like our planet is pretty fucked, you know, and it's gonna take some drastic changes for us to be able to shift, you know, whether or not humanity will survive in the next like couple generations, maybe a few generations, or maybe it's gonna be, I forget, they said something like by like mid last year, if we didn't make any drastic changes with our emissions, like humanity was gonna be doomed by like, I don't know, a certain number of years. Like it was irreversible. But I watched this special on Kurzgesagt on YouTube, and apparently, even though it was deemed that it was irreversible, the damage that we've done to the world with our carbon emissions and our pollution, there was enough of a shift with technology that the rate of recovery was better than expected. So it's not, we're not exactly hopeless. We're not exactly hopeless as a species anymore. If somehow we can really push technology to really address, you know, global warming at a more like drastic rate, maybe some, you know, radical change in like consumption or production, and it's possible to really change the rate of recovery from what was actually originally calculated. So there's hope there. Basically, guys, go to YouTube, Kurzgesagt. It's spelled Kurz, Gesagt. Anyway, great channel, very educational. I highly recommend you guys check that channel out. If you feel like we're doomed as a species because of global warming, you know, it gives you a little bit of hope. Apparently, like at before the last couple of years, or before the last few years, yeah, we were doomed to like our global temperature by a certain year was gonna be like 7 or 8 degrees of higher than it is now, which is catastrophic. But given the shifts in consumption and energy usage and like pollution regulation, maybe even like legislation with carbon emissions, that 7-8 degree increase that was originally projected is now around 4 or 5 degrees or something like that, but lower. You would think that's not going to be much of a difference, but apparently, yeah, catastrophic. Anything above 3 or 4 degrees of a shift in the global temperature of the Earth is bad. Like, you know, melting of the polar ice caps, flooding of coasts, and like shifting of like weather, and yeah, the landscape of the Earth would just be so different. So, given recent changes in, I guess, legislation and like behavior, we've shifted that from like the catastrophic 7 or 8 degree to more like a really, really bad scenario, 3 or 4 degrees. Still really bad though. But hey, it's something. It's a change. It's a shift, and hopefully we'll continue in that trend, and it'll get even better after that. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of people who theorize that too, like this whole ice age melting and freezing and melting and freezing is a cyclical thing in Earth, on the Earth, and I do believe that too. Like there seems to be some studies or theories at least that show that there have been multiple ice ages on Earth, but I can't deny that like the humans have likely had an influence on that cycle. It has to be. So maybe just speeding it up, and maybe the world is reacting a little bit sooner than it should have, and you know. Anyway, so that's the whole thing with the Canadian government, democracy, and how I think people should be voting. You know, global warming and carbon footprint, carbon emissions. You know, by 2035, apparently, like, you will no longer be able to buy a gasoline-powered car in Canada. I think that's pretty cool. You can only buy electric. New cars, anyway. The used market, I don't know what that's going to be like, if that's going to be still a thing where you can still buy used gasoline cars, but, like, with the rise of gas prices now these days, too, man, like, I wish I had a hybrid now, or I wish I had a electric. So, anyway, there's that shift. Moving now over to... Hopefully this works. Yes. Depp versus Heard, guys. Depp versus Heard. The most, like, public trial in a long time. Since, I guess, from what I can remember, OJ. OJ was a very public kind of, you know, under public scrutiny. A lot of people were following the happenings of that trial. But this one has been televised daily, you know. Some really record-breaking Twitch streams from Asmongold, hitting like hundreds of thousands of viewers and subscribers within one stream just by watching and reacting to this trial. So guys, for those who haven't been following, I mean, I'm surprised. If you haven't been following, just Google it. Depp versus Heard. So this has been apparently going on since April 11, 2022. Just finished yesterday. And everyone's all on this, like, you know, Depp won. Technically, yes, in terms of, like, if you think about it in terms of soccer, like, aggregate, yes, Depp won. Simply because Heard owes Depp more money than Depp owes Heard. They actually both technically lost. I don't even understand, guys. I probably dropped the ball on this too. I confess, admit, I did not follow this religiously like a lot of other people. I've seen the memes. I've seen like headlines on a daily on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. And yeah, it's very easy for somebody who maybe hasn't been following this very closely to jump on the bandwagon of Team Depp. It's very easy to do that because of the memes and all the posts that you've been seeing on Instagram and Facebook and social media. So, I mean, I invite you guys to go beyond the memes, go beyond the posts, maybe see some of the testimonies. What's up, Deji? Welcome.
Yo, dude.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, man?
I'm talking about Depp Heard now.
You're off cam?
No, we're on. We're live right now.
Oh, okay.
I started talking about like my back injury first, and then like the Canadian government election, and now Depp Heard.
Cool. Just setting up my camera here. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, let me go switch over there. All right, guys. 1 second. I'm gonna turn this off. Switch over to podcast, and then video on here. Pop this guy out. There we go.
All right, just give me a couple.
Let me move this over here. Okay, and we will share that screen as well. Depp Heard. So, Deji, have you been following the trial at all?
You know what? On and off. Just cause like on YouTube, there's always these little clips from the depositions that come out.
Yeah.
Showing like Johnny Depp's like testimony and then like Amber's reactions and shit.
Yeah.
And her like stone face.
Yes, her Elon Musk face.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I was just saying in the podcast that like it's very easy for somebody for public who haven't been really been invested in like keeping up with this whole trial to jump on the Team Johnny Depp bandwagon, you know?
That's true.
Like if you were not somebody who followed it from the beginning and you just tuned into the memes and like the majority kind of narrative of social media, you're likely gonna be pro Depp, right?
Yep.
And I probably fall onto that category too, based on, huh?
Based on what?
Oh, based on not just memes, but like, yeah, I started watching clips too of testimony. I started watching like the YouTube clips from like the expert on Heard's side versus the expert on Depp's side, like the psychiatrists on both sides with their psychiatric assessment. And then, you know, you hear the tapes of like Heard speaking to Johnny about like their altercation, and like, yeah, she very much sounded very manipulative and like yeah, not sadistic, manipulative and like narcissistic. Here we got Cutlash TNT. But if you followed the trial every day, you'd also be pro Depp. Okay, well that's good. I mean, not that I didn't follow it daily, Kyle. Like, I saw the memes every day. I saw the posts every day from the beginning. Yeah, I guess if you started and heard about this from the very beginning, when Heard basically just alleged, like, you know, accused Johnny Depp of domestic violence. You know, it's like very much right away #MeToo believer, right? Like that was the narrative, right? Like,
he lost all his shit.
Yeah.
They booted him from Harry Potter.
Yeah, he got out of Fantastic Beasts. You know, he lost any kind of future, maybe with like Disney and Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever, and it was very much very bad for his career. And then I don't know actually why it was chosen to be publicized. Do you know? Do you know why? Like, they just decided, you know what, let's like air this to the people.
Yeah, I found that really interesting. It's like it was a very public.
Yeah, Kyle, I agree.
You know, it was very public court proceedings.
Yeah,
like everything was available.
Like, there's even a crowd in there, and usually I think when you're like in a hearing like that, you'd have to be kind of involved, but like there was like an audience, just like an audience behind them during these trials. I don't know if these people were like related to anybody, but it looked like almost looked like, you know, a general admission audience or something to the trial. But yeah, the more you heard from testimony, the more you heard from like the experts, the psychiatrists, like the tapes, the evidence. Yes, like you cannot listen and watch those YouTube clips and like testimonies and not start to side with Depp. Like, I believe it too. I believe that, yeah, she lied. Like, she's an actress. It very much looked like she was acting. And this is, of course, an opinion of mine. Like, I'm not an expert, but, you know, when you hear too, even the lawyers, the way the lawyers approached it, and just how much stronger Depp's like defense team was against Heard. So Kyle, since you're listening, thank you for being here, man. Like, can someone explain to me how it became accusation of domestic violence? So like, look, this person like assaulted me sexually and like physical abuse. How does it go from those charges to now like the news is about defamation? Like, why is the verdict only about defamation now? Like, do you know?
Oh, you know what? I think okay, because there's two things, right? Because there was the initial allegations that she made, which I think were unfounded, right? I think there was a whole court thing that happened prior to this, and he lost all his like endorsements, all his movie opportunities. So this was like a I think this was a countersuit from him on the damage that her allegations had caused him, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what this new trial is about. That's why it's like a defamation suit or whatever.
Opinion. I'm trying to look up what op-ed means. saying something like, "I survived domestic violence and faced the public's wrath" or something. Okay, yeah, I know that eventually, yeah, I heard about, when I watched the verdict, they read out all these specific statements on this op-ed, and then the jury had to say, is it true or not? But when did it go from like an accusation of sexual assault? Like, did that not go to trial? He then lost his roles and all that, so now he sued her. Okay. So she claimed assault and didn't like take him to court for that? Did he not take?
Oh, what happened?
Well, from what Kyle's saying, which is also what I heard recently on these verdict, is it was a defamation. You know defamation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Heard apparently said some things that affected Johnny Depp negatively, and then Johnny Depp apparently said some things that was defamation towards Heard as well. So they were suing each other for defamation. There was another case where he lost $7 million. Thank you, Kyle. Okay, so apparently he did lose $7 million prior. So she did accuse him, and I guess they settled. They settled probably, but he was losing that one because of Me Too. So now this one was defamation. Did you hear the final verdict, Deji?
I did not.
She said she donated all, but turns out she didn't. Okay, so yeah, I heard about that too. So apparently, in terms of damages from the first lawsuit, from the first accusation, they settled, and Depp had to pay her $7 million for damages, and she claimed she was going to donate it, the $7 million, because of her cause. You know, like for like Me Too, maybe Me Too kind of a theme. So now, with the defamation lawsuit between them, he won, I think, 10 million. Like, she owes him 10 million ish, but he owes her 2 million. So you go by, like, you know, overall summary. What was I saying earlier? Like, aggregate. So overall, he won 8 million. And apparently her net worth is like under 8 million, so she's not even going to be able to pay him. I don't even know how that works, but that was covered this time. She donated all, but turns out she didn't. That was covered.
I'm just gonna grab some soy sauce.
Yeah, man, yeah. So anyway, I'm seeing still posts from those who seem to be concerned with the narrative of this trial and the verdict. The fact that this accusation went from like a hashtag Me Too kind of a theme to now bashing the person who cried wolf, you know, like, and I don't understand why the public is reacting in a way of like, oh, this is gonna make it harder for all women who are gonna cry, who are gonna call out for assault. I don't know, man. Go ahead. What's your piece on that? Like, people's concern are saying, oh, because of this, because it was so heavily publicized, any woman now who experiences actual domestic violence or assault is going to have a harder time speaking out. What do you think about that?
There's actually been an argument that existed actually at the height of Me Too. I don't know if you remember Dave Chappelle's special, where he was talking about how they were kind of like moving too fast in terms of if they're really aggressive with their agenda and their policies, there's going to be backlash. And he said one of the prime examples of that is the new abortion law that's been rolled back from like that Roe versus Wade thing that happened like, you know, a couple decades ago or whatever, right?
Yeah. So
basically the sentiment has always existed that like if too many of these like cry wolf scenarios or these scenarios that are not deemed necessarily sexual assault.
Yeah.
Because remember the Aziz Ansari thing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people would just consider that a bad date, right? But she, I think, came forward and said like he sexually assaulted me.
Yeah.
And like he like lost a bunch of deals because of that. He like disappeared for a while.
Yeah.
So a lot of people's opinions were like, yo, if all of these like not as serious allegations keep coming out, it's gonna take away from the actual what's that creep what's the movie guy's name?
Weinstein.
The creepy movie?
Weinstein.
The creepy yeah, it's gonna take away from the actual Weinsteins and the actual like people in power.
Bill Cosby, R. Kelly.
Bill Cosby, R. Kelly's. So
Yeah.
that's kind of always been an ongoing argument within this whole like Me Too movement.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that that's also what's been coming out.
Okay, so that's what people are saying. What do you think?
I think it's just human nature, right? Like that's something that humans are just generally going to do, especially if there's that double standard and that bias.
Yep.
Like you often hear from women's side that a lot of victim blaming goes on.
Yeah.
And a lot of these cases are not taken seriously when in reality there's a rampant kind of just percentage of just like women that are just like, you know, sexually assaulted, and some of them might not be like as overt as like a rape or something, but like these things happen regularly. Yeah. So there's like that side,
right? And
there would be that side that would like sympathize with an Amber Heard regardless of like all the stuff that's coming out. They would be like I bet there's just some like fuck shit that Johnny did or whatever, like, you know, there's like that side of the argument.
Okay.
And then there's the other side of the argument where it's like men who may have been like put in like compromised situations that they weren't necessarily like at fault.
Yeah.
And they have that like relationship with just like people who like accuse men of rape and stuff like that. And so like this might seem like, oh, see, it happens, that it might be like that kind of a reaction.
Yeah.
So I honestly like get both sides of it. I think these conversations are extremely like, you really have to get all the details right, because actions should be taken, but only the right action, you know?
Okay.
I think they are rarely black and white.
Well, the concern, it sounds like the concern is, you know, the Aziz Ansari woman claims assault.
Yeah.
So people are gonna believe her. I think in any scenario where a woman is gonna come up and place an allegation of that seriousness of like sexual assault, you want the first and primary response to be empathy and like investigation, right? You don't want dismissal. You definitely want her to be heard, and you want her to be like taken seriously, and that's what happened. And then further investigation went in. Then you hear the other side with Aziz, and then you start to analyze the situation. Was it really what the initial allegation described? Now it's up to interpretation. And you're right. When after I heard both sides of Aziz and that woman, yeah, he didn't back off, and she may have made, you know, some she may have communicated in some way that she was not interested, but he was not receptive to it. But is it like there's that fine line? Was he not receptive to it because he had malicious intent, or was he not receptive to it just because he wasn't able to actually perceive it? Like he just didn't see that. He didn't see the kind of resistance that I guess, you know, that would have been obvious for him. And yeah, so then you start to really take that into interpretation. And I understand. Now if this woman if the same woman was to make another allegation towards another man, yes, I would understand that people would be a little hesitant to take her as seriously, right? But why would a completely different scenario, a different case, have the same effect? You know what I mean? People are saying what's happening with that Aziz girl, what happened with Heard. Now, any woman who comes up with an allegation of sexual assault is not going to be taken as seriously. Why? Why are you going to think this random other new woman comes up with an assault charge? Why aren't you going to take her seriously just because of some completely separate trial with this celebrity or whatever? It's not the same. It's not the same scenario. It's not the same person. Why would you judge? It's like this, dude. It's like me. It's like take our crew. You know, I say, yo, guys, man, like, I really hurt my back last week. You know, it was serious. It was really serious. It was crazy. And to me, I actually believe, like, yeah, like, I could have been in really serious danger. Like, I was immobile for quite some time. I was hurting. But a week later, you see, I'm moving again. So it's like, oh, look, I'm okay. Like, guys, I'm moving again. Like, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And then let's say Kyle says, yo, guys, yeah, same. This week I hurt my back so bad. Like, it could be bad. Now, are you going to take what I said about what happened with me and affect how you're going to react to Kyle? You know, it's a different situation. It's a different scenario. Like,
yeah, you treat everything on an individual basis.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are so concerned. Okay, let's hear it. Kyle's saying it's only going to be bad for future gold diggers who don't have evidence of anything. Isn't that a good thing? Innocent until proven guilty. It's got to come back to that. I agree, man. Yeah, sorry. Kyle's saying this in chat. So yeah, Kyle says it's only going to be bad for future gold diggers who don't have evidence of anything, which is good, which is what we want. You want to deter from those, like, false, like the woman in the Central Park, New York. You heard about that? Where the guy's walking his dog. Or the guy was... Okay, so the guy was, like, bird watching in Central Park. He's a black guy. And this woman, white woman, was walking her dog without a leash.
Oh, I've seen the video of that.
Yeah. And she's not supposed to do that. She's not allowed to walk her dog without a leash. And he's like, hey, look, I understand you're with your dog, but you have to put your dog on a leash because he's watching birds. The dog's going crazy. He can't do what he came there to do. And then so she was basically like leave me alone. And he's like, and I guess it was more of like a citizen's kind of responsibility, is like, well, look, the rule is you gotta like leash up your dog. Anyway, if for those who don't know the story, I'm trying to give the summary. So he proceeds to, like, approach the dog because she would not listen. She would not, like, adhere to the rule. And because he, like, approached the dog, she felt threatened. She felt like she was in danger now, like he was going to hurt her. So she calls the police on him, saying that this black man is, like, assaulting me. And specifically said that, like, in the call, to try and use the race card in her favor, like, white woman, you know, making a call on a black man. Backfired on her. Everyone, like, yeah, backfired on her. Which is what we want. We don't want that shit. Like, that's...
I think that's literally where the Karen term came from that video.
Really? Like, was her name Karen? I don't even know.
I'm not sure, but it was like one of those videos that came out around that specific time.
Yeah.
That's where the Karen term came from.
Like, this like, manipulation entitlement shit, like, with these claims is why, like, that's the kind of response you want to get for those types of people. But if it's a serious allegation, and if this woman, whoever it is, isn't just after gold digging, or just wants to, like, revenge, or, like, narcissistic behavior, or I don't know if it's border, what is it? I Forget it.
Borderline personality.
Borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder or whatever. And it's like legit, like straight up legit. Then you're gonna want to take it seriously, and you're gonna do the same level of investigation and all that. Like when you see Heard and you just hear her defense, you hear her lawyers. I don't know if it was a case of like who had more money and who just bought the better lawyers or whatever like that. A lot of people speculate that her defense, or sorry, her legal team was so bad simply because no good legal team would take her on as a client.
Damn.
Like that. Well, at least that's one of the narratives I heard or I read. Like that's why they were so bad, because no good person would take her as a client, because it was like, nah, like you can't win, you know. Anyway, so yeah, with regards to people glorifying Johnny Depp as a hero, is he a hero? No, he's not a hero because of what happened here. There was nothing heroic about what happened here. Like, you can't just say someone's a hero because they spoke the truth. When you speak the truth because that is like the right thing to do. It's like a virtue. Your honesty is what? What's up? Go ahead.
I don't know if it's necessarily about him being like a hero. I think it's more so about the fact that he represents, like, he is symbolic of a lot of the, I don't know if it's called angst, but a lot of the angst that like men feel toward women, right? That often stems from a place of like, you know, they don't necessarily, maybe they've been exposed to the more so negative aspects of, like, you know, feminine behavior, and to them, like, this is like, yo, he represents like how sometimes we get like slandered and beat down, and like people always paint us as the villains when in reality sometimes it's really like the other person, you know. So I feel like it's more, he represents more so like that side of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's more like we were rooting for him because he was actually the victim. So we were just rooting for him because he was the victim. We're not glorifying him as a lawyer. Kyle is saying, if they swap lawyer teams, she'd still lose bad. I mean, yes, you're right, because there was evidence. Like, the evidence was, I don't know if the word is irrefutable, but like, yeah, it was just bad on her part to try and like spell this whole thing out. Everything she said, everything she claimed, there was like someone testifying against it. Kate Moss or like other people who came out to testify against specific statements she made, you know? So it's like, okay, you got caught in this lie. You got caught in this lie now too. And you got caught on this. It's like, how can we take you seriously anymore? Yeah, so she lost her credibility.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Deji, that I was rooting for him because he was wronged. He was the victim, and then he was being blamed. Kyle saying, yes, Deji, for sure. Asman was telling a story of his good friend getting beat by his girl. Cops were called. He was the one in the cop car at the end. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, shit like that.
Yeah, like, you don't want that to happen. And you know what? It's going to happen. I don't think it should happen, but there's going to be those instances where like people are going to make assumptions, or people are going to go with whatever preconceived notion they have in their head, and they're going to move with that. So that's why that guy ended up in the cop car, even though the woman was the one, you know, crying wolf or whatever.
Yo, just to tie that in, because that's so funny, because that just reminded me of something.
Yeah.
That happened with me, actually.
What?
Yeah, man. So like nothing happened, but just like the mentality.
Yeah.
You know, so at one point, like I had someone like living with me for like a month, just because like their living situation was like very messed up.
Yeah.
And this person was like very erratic. and just would like fly off the handle. It got to a point where I was like so scared to tell her to like leave my house that I actually like would start secretly recording like her like going crazy, you know, just for my safety in case like
For
I
evidence.
had to call the police and she started making up some shit. I could just like
Yeah.
play like, you know what I mean? So
So
yeah, man.
would you say when you get to that point where you feel you have to start recording stuff, that means you've reached a point where you're like, wow, I really don't know this person. You had
Yeah,
confidence in this person. You felt like, you know what, you feel safe enough for now this person to stay with you. You know, yeah, you weren't trying to do a good thing. But then they reach a point where you're like, you know what? I really don't know this person, and now I need to protect myself. So you lost all faith in the other individual once you start doing that, right?
yeah,
Like it's sad.
yeah,
It's sad, but I mean it has to happen sometimes. And like, yeah, you build a wall. You're probably gonna be more hesitant in the future for a certain scenario for that to repeat. You're probably not gonna do that again. You know. Uh,
craziness.
so there was this fresh and fit
But
verse. Yeah, go ahead.
but
Go
at the
ahead.
same time,
Yeah.
at the same time, right? I wouldn't treat every scenario like that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, the next person, okay, well, like if you're living with me and we have an argument, but
You base
like
it
I
on
know you're sane.
yeah, you base it on the behavior. You base it on the behavior and like their
Individualized
actual
basis.
reaction. So, Abba and Preach and Fresh and Fit. There are these two YouTube channels. Both of them are like reaction based or like podcast type, and they have beef. And it was known that they have beef. Everyone on YouTube knows about their beef. Now this young woman comes out and basically makes like a sexual assault claim on Fresh and Fit.
Mm,
And she goes on a podcast with H3H3 and talks about what happened with her and this guy Fit from Fresh and Fit. And Abba and Preach actually react to that podcast. And even
okay.
though Abba and Preach have beef with Fresh and Fit, they don't like each other, they don't support each other. They could tell that this girl put herself in a scenario where she never actually showed disinterest or like any intention to distance herself from this guy. Everything in her story when she was like trying to share with H3H3 podcast of what happened, everything in her story basically lined up to her trying to set him up. But she never
Okay.
took on any kind of responsibility or role to keep her away from this so-called sexual assault. Right?
Okay.
So it's like taking ownership of like her behavior. Did she set herself up to be in that scenario where she could have completely like avoided the scenario where the alleged sexual assault occurred? So basically, man, like she apparently her story is this. I'm gonna summarize it probably like poorly. Forgive me for any of you guys who've seen the podcast and like whatever. She's basically saying that she doesn't like this guy. She's young too. She's young. She's like 19 or something. So that's under drinking age in the US, right? 19.
Okay.
He's like, I don't know, older, late 20s or something. I don't know. And he's into her. He's like attracted to her. He gets like people to come on their podcast. He gets guest women to come on his podcast. And apparently it's known that any guest woman who comes on their podcast has to sleep with them. It's like part of their contract or something like that. Stupid.
Oh, really?
It's like douchey, like whatever. And they claim to be alpha males, you know, and like whatever. Or like the top 1%, whatever. So
That's kind of
he brings on this 19-year-old girl, is into her and attracted to her, and starts to like hit on her. And she says she's not interested. She says, "Oh, I don't want anything like that. I'm not gonna sleep with you, whatever."
okay.
But then she proceeds to continue to text with him. And her plan was she wanted to get close enough for him to think that she was interested so that she could reject him. That was her plan. Like, make him think, oh, maybe I have a chance with this girl, and then reject him. That's what she wanted to do. It's so stupid.
Oh, did she admit this?
Yeah, she said this in her story. I wanted to get in a position where I could reject him to hurt him even more, type of thing. Right? It's so stupid.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So yeah, she basically put herself in every scenario.
She wanted to do, but then she can't now, like.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's
Yeah.
weird.
And she kept trying to paint this picture that he was taking advantage of her, or set her up, or manipulate the situation that put them in a scenario where he finally made an advance on her. But she made every effort to be in that scenario. And so on his view, it's like she wants to be here. It's almost like that Aziz thing, maybe. No, I can't relate it to the Aziz thing. But in that scenario, Aziz thought she was still into it when she wasn't. In this scenario, he thought she was into it, but her whole plan was that she wasn't going to be. So basically, he finally rejected her. Oh, sorry, she finally rejected him when he made an advance on her. But the thing is, he already made moves leading up to that already. I guess when you're in the room on a bed, you're gonna start to make moves. You're gonna start to get handsy or whatever.
Wait, hold on. So
yeah, she was in.
How far did this get?
Dude, so they go out clubbing or something like that, and she said, yo, I can't, there's no way I want to be in a car with this guy. But it ends up she's in a car with this guy. And he drives back to his studio location. She goes with him. Never once says, yo, I don't want to go there or whatever. Her whole story is yeah, we were talking throughout the car ride. Next thing I know, we were at his studio. No, you don't just figure out that you're at his studio when you're driving there. You know what I mean? They're talking. He ends up driving with her. Him and her are alone in the car. He drives to his studio. So they arrive at the studio. It's okay. At that point, if she didn't want to be there, she could have left. She could have Ubered. She could have said no. But you know what she did? She went upstairs into his studio still. She changed clothes into It was so stupid.
Okay, I feel like once you change clothes.
Yeah, she changed clothes.
What are we doing here? Why do you have a change of clothes?
And he's I don't know. He said something stupid, they kiss, and then he said you have bad breath. You need to brush your teeth. He said something stupid like that. And guess what she did? She went to brush her teeth. What? You're kissing this dude that you don't want to say is interested in you. He says you have bad breath after kissing and tells you to brush your teeth. So you brush your teeth? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway. So she brushes her teeth. And then she sees alcohol in his fridge. She's 19. Okay. She's underage.
Okay.
He's like, oh, you got some White Claw in your fridge. And in an interest, oh, you have White Claw in your fridge. And he's like,
wait, is she the one saying the story?
She's saying this story in a podcast. And the guy hosting the podcast, I felt maybe he could have been a little bit more critical, but he was just receptive. He was just taking on everything she said and just remained neutral, almost supportive.
Yeah, because you know what? A lot of times, honestly, too, because I've heard this, even if girls don't feel safe, they'll just kind of go along with things just to
yes,
make sure it doesn't escalate.
Yes.
But I don't know. I feel once you bring a change of clothes, what's happening here?
No, so he has merch, right? Okay. He has merch. And
so was it her clothes that she just had?
She changed into his merch.
Oh, okay.
So she's wearing his hoodie and shorts. Brushed her teeth. Proceeds to say, "Oh, you have White Claw in your fridge." So he's like, "Yeah, if you want one, feel free, but don't go telling people that I gave it to you." Yeah, you have a girl at your house who makes a comment about alcohol. Yeah, she's underage. I'm not gonna say it was like the noble move there, but he was like, yeah, if you grab it, but like, don't go telling people that I was like making you drink it, right? She wanted it. So he didn't stop her from like drinking the white. She drinks the White Claw anyway. She proceeds to drink.
Wait, so like the technicality here is he didn't offer it.
He didn't even offer it. She saw it first for herself, and because she commented on it, he then said, "Well, I mean, if you want, go ahead, but don't tell people that like I gave it to you." You know, he was just, I guess, being like go with the flow hosty here, but like, yeah, it wasn't like the responsible thing to do. It'd be like, "Yo, you're underage." No, right? But at this point, he's trying to smash. Like, clearly, he wants to get this girl, and he was negging. He was negging her about her bad breath. And get this, he lifts up the sweater while she's now sitting on his bed. Okay, like this girl says she does not want to be with this guy. She does not want to sleep with this guy. She doesn't want to make out with this guy. She is now sitting on his bed in his hoodie with her teeth brushed. Okay. So he lifts up her sweater and checks out her body, her boobs, and then insults her. Insulted her boobs. Right?
Okay.
This is, again, I think, negging. He was trying to neg this girl, saying that her boobs were lopsided or something like that. So she's like, oh my god, he insulted me? But then he also, like, I think he proceeded to, like, touch them. So this is now the sexual assault. She takes this insult, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how can you say that? Like, covers up, and she's like, you know I'm not gonna sleep with you. She finally says, I'm not gonna sleep with you. So then
Hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Was this the first time she was saying it? Or she said it, like, prior to all of this happening?
She's never said it before that.
Oh,
she was just, like, you know, apparently they had differing political views, so she was always, like, disagreeing with, like, not political views, but, like, just, like, social views, like, you know, like, right from wrong or whatever like that, or how a woman should treat a man, how a man should treat a woman. They have very differing social relationship views.
Okay, because I would have been like, if she said I'm not gonna, if she had said like I'm not gonna sleep with you prior to
right
all
from the
of this
beginning,
happening,
right. So
I would have thought her behavior was extremely like weird.
This is the thing. Like, she went on the podcast, so right away, these panel of girls go on their podcast, and it's understood for him that they would all sleep with him, but she didn't. She didn't.
Oh, she went on the podcast first. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
She didn't.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
So after that, they continue texting back and forth like a conversation. But she says he keeps trying to reach out to her. But when you actually look at the text exchange, it was like an equal exchange of text. And then she says she doesn't want to hang out with this guy, yet still proceeds to ends up alone with him in his car. Still proceeds to end up alone with him in his studio. Still proceeds to change into his clothes and brush her teeth and end up in his bed. And then gets sexually assaulted when he lifts up her sweater and like touches her. In his bed. He thinks like this was actually gonna happen. But right at that moment, she finally says, you know I'm not gonna sleep with you, right? And then he just scoffs it off. And is like, okay, fine, then you can go home. That's what he said. As soon as she finally confirmed disinterest, like not happening, he immediately cuts off his attempt, like his whole game, right? He basically stops his game. Anyway,
was there any like was there any indication verbally of like, hey, stop this, or
no.
Like
no,
I guess up until this point where she verbalized, you know, I'm not going to sleep with you, I guess were her actions indicative of kind of going along with what was happening?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
But she never once said anything, well, at least based on her recalling the story and like other people's interpretation of what she's saying, she never once actually verbalized like I'm not down for what you think is gonna happen. All they were always just disagreeing on like how men should be, how women should be. But in terms of like the scenario, all her actions led her to be there with him alone in his studio. Like at any point she could have said no. She could have said no from getting into his car. She could have said no when she arrived at the studio. And apparently too, she's like, it's like 3 a.m. in Miami, you know, we're 2 young girls stranded, I don't want to be left out on the street, so like I had no other choice but to get in his car with him. That's her story. But it turns out it was like a mile. It was just 1 mile away. She could have Ubered from where that club was to like where she lives, or like whatever, something like that. Anyway, it's just because she didn't want to pay for her own Uber. And then she wanted him to drive her home after. And he's like, no, you could take an Uber.
Was this so this wasn't after a podcast, right? They had a podcast and then they were texting and then just met up.
Yeah,
right?
And then they went out to like a club. So they were already drinking and they were already partying. And then he made his like his motions and his moves. And he thought he was gonna smash. And then right at the end she denies it. So then he immediately stops and sends her home. But then she proceeds to go on this podcast and talk about it and claim and try to position it as if he manipulated her to put her in that situation, to the point of when he sexually assaulted her, I guess, with like lifting up her shirt. And, like,
what I will say is, like, I think because she went in and she admitted that she went in with the intent to manipulate that situation.
Yeah, it's like immediate.
Her credibility is already called into question.
Yeah.
Even for his douchebaggery, I think the fact that she indicated that, you know, physically and verbally she hadn't given any signs of wanting to stop up until that moment.
Yeah.
And then after she did, he completely stopped everything.
Yeah.
Even his douchebaggery, I think he was still like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in a scenario where like she's not sure if she likes the guy or not.
Okay.
Her feelings are definitely like valid, because like those like that energy does come into play where you're like, I guess the girl doesn't know if like the guy is like really a good guy. She's just trying to like feel him out. And
yeah,
you know, even after the physical contact occurs after the fact, she might feel like, okay, I actually wasn't really comfortable with that at all.
Yeah. That sounds like what happened with Aziz.
Yeah, sorry?
That sounds like what happened with Aziz.
I feel like that's still like completely valid, right? Because like,
yeah,
a lot of those things don't really like, you don't really like, you process them after the fact a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
But I think in this scenario specifically, because she went in with the intent to like lead him on and then reject
instantly,
like the credibility is already like tainted, right?
Instantly. But even if you take that in the sense of what you're saying, where a girl's just trying to feel a guy out, right?
Yeah.
Then if you're trying to feel a guy out, you don't feel like you're in danger of getting in a car alone with him. If you're feeling a guy out.
I think that depends, because like,
no,
like,
think about the spectrum here. I'm into a guy. I'm not into a guy. I'm on the fence. Okay.
Okay.
So you're telling me if you're on the fence, you can actually feel fear getting in a car alone with somebody if you're on the fence?
Yeah, I think like, yo, girls are afraid, man. Girls be afraid of us, like.
Yeah.
And I feel like they have good reason to be, like, even within their, oh my god, this guy's like so interesting. Like, there is still like a danger element, and I feel like that danger element actually ties into the attraction in like a weird, fucked up way. You know.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Even that, with that in itself, there is a spectrum of that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this guy's like kind of scary, but I'm kind of into it. Or versus like, oh, this guy's kind of scary, I don't like it at all, you know?
Yeah. Okay, Deji's saying afraid as soon as they realize they're not getting a free Uber ride. Okay, my question is this, Aziz. Let's go back to maybe the Aziz scenario. This woman ends up back in his apartment, right?
Okay.
Is that what happened?
Oh, wait, after?
So from what I remember about the Aziz story is...
Hold on, my cat is eating my shoes.
Okay, yeah. Cat, stop eating Deji's shoes. What's up, Day? Thanks for tuning in.
Okay.
And yeah, just so earlier too, Kyle did comment that he looked it up. $7 million Amber Heard wasn't donated. It was the divorce settlement. It wasn't about the original court accusation of sexual assault. Anyway, so to my understanding, this Aziz Ansari story is they were interested in each other, or she was feeling him out, but they were making out, like they were kissing.
Okay.
And they're back in his apartment. He's a celebrity, yeah. They're back in his apartment, and he starts making moves. And I guess
okay.
I understand too. When a girl's trying to feel out a guy might already be into it, right?
Oh, most of the time, for sure.
For sure, he's not trying to feel her out. He's trying to get somewhere. And a girl is, as you said, going along with it because until they find their threshold of like, okay, maybe I don't want this. So he's making out with her. Then he proceeds to get handsy. They continue making out. So to any man, I don't know, maybe not any man, but even if I was in that scenario, if I'm making out with somebody and then we both get, physically into it, hands, whatever, I'm going to think it's reciprocated. It's like body language, right? You think it's being reciprocated. The kiss is being returned. Reciprocation is an indicator of like green light,
That's true. I mean, I go the extra step and just
ask.
Hey, is this okay?
Okay, yeah. That's that's the thing. Sometimes
no problems.
Sometimes people will do that, and more. I guess power to the question. But then you also sometimes you get those scenarios with women who don't like being asked. You ever get those?
That's happened to me once, and it was very interesting.
It was an interesting. It's happened to me too, where they're like, I don't ask me for permission or something like that. Like they want to be almost like, they want more of the alpha kind of scenario. So that's a thing too, right? So yeah, with Aziz, from what I understand, they get
that's an L.
It gets to oral basically, where like he proceeds to start to go down on her.
Oh yeah, they got
and then she's not. From what I understood, she wasn't telling him no. But this is where the celebrity thing comes in, which is a little bit difficult because he is in a position of power and she is in a position of like weakness in terms of celebrity. So maybe she felt forced in that scenario. And then he proceeds to now want that reciprocated. Like he went down on her and now he wants her to go down on him and motioned for that.
He motioned for it?
I'm assuming.
Okay.
But the way the narrative from what I read, yes, basically she ended up doing it, but she didn't want to because she felt like she had no choice at this point.
Okay.
So everything seemed consensual up until the point where now she's performing on him, but she didn't want to do that. But at that point, it was like I couldn't turn back anymore. But in his head, the whole time, he thinks it's being reciprocated. It's like it's a fine line, man. It's like it's unfortunate that people aren't just able to communicate how they actually think and how they feel. Women, men out there, like if your intention is clear and you're motioning for your intention, great. If you even take the extra step of announcing your intention, even better. But if you do not reciprocate in that feeling, women, men, communicate it. Just communicate it. Like even if now to the point where you think, oh, I might be in danger and maybe the rejection's going to be worse. Yes, that happens.
That does happen.
But you know what? It's still the better scenario. Would you say? Remaining true and not surrendering to something you weren't even cool to do is a better scenario, and then suffering maybe the consequences of that because the guy might be a douchebag or the girl might be a douchebag as well. You know, maybe they react badly, but it's still a better scenario because you remained 100% honest and truthful and clear with your communication and just had to deal with like the aftermath of that versus having to go on something and do something sexually you didn't want to do. You know what I mean? Why would anyone consider that scenario to be better? Why?
You know,
Yeah.
I said this to my boy like a month ago.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, that's one of the most genius things you've ever said. I said, like, women have like a weird relationship with directness.
Okay.
Because like, guys, we're straight shooters, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to like work life, our relationship with other people, dating, it's like we have like one thing that we just always try to get across at one time. It's just like, boom, I want this. This is my friend. This is why he's my friend. If I don't fuck with him today, this is why I don't fuck with him today. You pissed me off, bro. I don't like it. Okay, I'm sorry about that. All right, cool. We're cool.
Yeah.
I even with dating, that girl's hot. I want her. I'm gonna go talk to her. Okay. You know, I feel like women do things like very indirectly, and like a lot of it is like suggestive.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just like nuance, right? And that's how
it's a gray area to interpretation.
That's part of the reason why we're so attracted to them. It's like part of like their whole mystique and everything.
Mystery.
And I think like it also goes into like the whole chase aspect,
it's
right?
A challenge.
Like, does
yeah.
Want me?
Yeah.
This girl not into me? Do I gotta like, you know?
Yeah.
So I think because that's such an integral part of like how they like navigate a lot of their situations, it's gonna consistently be something that comes up in scenarios like this, right? Because like a girl's not just gonna like if she's on a date with a dude, she's not just gonna be like, okay, let's go to your house and have sex now. You know, they're just not like that, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna
yes. Probably the most aren't like that. There's probably gonna be anomalies to that, but yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be outliers, but they're probably gonna be like, oh, you know, are you doing anything like later, like after this date, or you know what I mean? Like that's just how they operate, right? So I feel like when you say, hey, communicate your intentions, for guys, I feel like that's always, you know, gonna be a very straightforward thing, but for women, I feel like that will still present some sort of challenges because
it's just not in their nature.
Even if you think about it, like we necessarily wouldn't. I think we say we want a lot of like women to be very straightforward about things, but even a girl just like telling you, "Hey, let's go to your house and have sex now," would be like, okay.
No, but that's a suggestion now. That's her initiating. But if a guy is initiating and she's not into it, that's what I'm talking about. Not even if her intention is to sleep with a guy. Okay, if you don't want to communicate that, yeah, I get it. But you're not being put in a scenario where you're doing something you don't want to do. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's the opposite now. It's like if a guy is making an advance that you don't want to be a part of, that I don't understand why. Well, I get it. People feel danger. Silence is a thing. They give in because they don't want to get hurt or like perhaps even killed. Yeah, I get it. No, I get it. Like that is an actual fear, and I suppose there is a number of individuals out there who would take on that trauma over a potential, you know, of something even worse. But I guess I'm a guy. Like obviously, I'm gonna think more of that straight arrow thing. If you don't want it, you say you don't want it. It doesn't happen. You know.
Because I think about that like a lot. Like, why is there always this sort of like indirectness all the time? You know, but that's
And
think it was Patricia actually talking about like that's just how they
but
operate.
that's
You know?
only that's if you think about it, that's only with like with a male and female who don't know each other. Like
True.
you don't experience that if you've already built a friendship or
Yeah, that's true.
relationship or some sort of rapport. It
That's
only
true. Like
happens when it's like
I'm,
a first date or a blind date
yeah,
or a pickup at a bar or like it's like this it's like this dance of like this decorum of like how a woman should be when you don't know a guy and the guy's supposed to court this girl and the girl's supposed to be like a little dismissive but at the same time still show interest enough for him to continue chasing, and it's like all this dance shit. Like, yeah, I get it.
a lot of it is social, like fucking this our social climate and social norms and shit. And yeah, just to clarify, I am more so speaking like the stuff I said is speaking within the context of like a dating scenario.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
once we're in a relationship or once we're married, like everything is just like
yeah. Because if you look at the Aziz story again, or even the Louis C.K. story, of like people you just met that night ending up in your apartment, right? That's it. You met them for the first time and now they're at your apartment. There are some men out there who maybe don't experience this very often or very regularly, and they're gonna think that means something more than it might. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow, I just met this girl and she is now with me alone in my apartment after meeting her tonight. You're gonna think, if you're a guy who that doesn't happen to you very often, you're thinking, this is everything. This is gonna go all the way, right? Well, maybe. It depends what you're after. It depends what your intentions are.
that's why you just gotta get that consent, baby.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And some people might want to be verbal with it. Some people might want to not be nonverbal with it, right? And you read cues. But this is where that line now it becomes like a very well-defined line. It becomes a thin line, and then it becomes a gray area. And what I'm suggesting to anyone who find themselves in that scenario, I personally would recommend defining that line and being verbal about it, so at least for your sake, even if it's gonna be an alleged like accusation in the future, you have your statement to back you up. You have
Yeah,
an actual thing that will back you up, like evidence. Like if a guy swears under oath and he's like, do you swear to tell the truth? And the guy says, yes, I will swear to tell the truth. And they're like, did she at any point tell you she was not interested? And the guy's like, yes. Well, then it's there. Like, it's like, okay, well, there you go. But if he's like, did she at any point tell you that she was not interested? He's like, no. So then it's like, oh, well then, okay, what do we do? What do we do now? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
I know
tricky, man.
I know I'm making it sound like it's black and white. It's not black and white,
It's,
but
yeah, I mean, some things are, and a lot of things are not. I think a lot of these scenarios, like, it's like, what's the intent? Like, what it's really about the intent, right?
yeah,
Is the intent of this guy to take advantage of you?
yeah,
Was your intent to, you know, feel comfortable with this guy, and you didn't feel comfortable with this guy?
yeah,
It's just, I think people a lot of times, like in these scenarios, just like maybe aren't asking the right question.
yeah.
You know, I don't know, man. Everyone just like communicating, just safe though, man, and get your
Yeah.
consent.
Yeah. I just think that's the simplest way. I get that fact that it's not as easy as I might make it sound for a woman to be so clear cut with consent and like communication, but I'm just suggesting and recommending that that's probably likely the simplest scenario to make things clear. Is you communicate it verbally. No body language like that. Like imagine this, dude. Imagine a guy meets a girl, picks her up at a bar. They're drinking too. Okay? They're both drinking. It's a bar.
Hmm.
Music's playing. He's like chatting her up, buys her a drink. they're laughing, they're giggling, they're dancing. Okay? They start to make out. Later on in the evening, they start to make out. So they're making out. You can tell. When I say make out, it's not one guy kissing someone who doesn't want to be kissed. It's being reciprocated. You can tell when someone's kissing you back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then the guy takes it further and starts to take his hands around parts of the body. Right? Making out. Would you say, in this scenario, if a woman is not interested in taking the kiss to that point, she will make it known to, like, you know, move the hands away, maybe
I literally
back out.
Of like a girl like moving hands.
Yeah, it's basically like taking the hands and moving them, or it's going or backing away, or whatever it is. But if it's received, and then everything continues and persists, this is, to a man, I would assume, green light to take it even further. And then you might take it even further. And then you might think, next step. It's like a progression, right? Of like, what is...
I would actually wait till she starts touching me back. Like, please touch me back so it's not just me touching you.
I get it. No, Deji, you made that clear. Like, you would ask. You're a gentleman who would ask for permission too. Right?
If I didn't verbalize it.
I know, but you would wait for it to be reciprocated, that she starts feeling up too. But if she doesn't, if she's making out with you, her arms are around your neck and shit, and your arms are around her body, but then you start getting handsy, and she proceeds to kiss you while you're getting handsy. What do you think? What do you interpret that to be? Is that consent?
That's a gray area for me, actually. Like, what you just specified would be a gray area for me.
Yeah, but would you stop? Would you stop?
I would pause.
Would you be like, "Is this okay?" Is that what you'd say? You'd be like, "Okay, I know." It's like, I know I just crossed that line, but let me just make sure. Was that cool with you? Okay, all right, cool. So I didn't cross the line, and then you proceed. I get it. Some people are gonna be like that. But if you've been drinking all night and then you're getting woozy and you're just in that mood and then you're in your primal instincts, a girl and a guy is doing the same thing, you know, are you going to be able to, like, stop yourself and be like, yo, are you cool with this?
I guess slippery slopes.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. Anyway, yeah. I'm acknowledging the gray areas of that, yeah. Because in also... even the gray areas of that, one woman will not react the same way as another woman.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like, it also depends on the woman. The woman might actually... Okay, take for this. A woman can actually be into it, but still back away. Because she wants to be a lady. Even though she wants it.
That's true.
That's, like, the extra level of this game. Or, a woman, straight up, doesn't do anything and continues to receive it and doesn't indicate anything, but then maybe
that's also true.
But then maybe just after walks away, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, oh, maybe I crossed the line there or something. Maybe, like, so they proceed to participate, but then you cross that line. The exchange finishes for some brief moment. And then it's cut. It's like it's disconnected. Yeah. Then you know, oh, oops, like, fuck, you know, something like that, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you even hear like stories of like women who like they're like literally in the middle of like sex to guy into shit, yo.
Oh.
Finished. So I don't hurt his damn feelings, and then after they're like, yo, fuck this guy.
Oh.
So a lot of times it's like, you know, after the fact things too, or like in the moment they're just like, this ain't it, but I'm just not gonna, you know.
Now the weird thing is, I've heard, you know, certain guys too have said that on their side of it, of like, they're not like, you know, this isn't that great, like, I'm not interested in this girl so much because, like, this isn't, you know, my thing, and like the rejection goes in the other way. Even though the girl might think, oh, you know, Day just said, I got work early tomorrow. I mean,
I'm crying.
that's a good line. That's a good line.
I thought he was just saying that, but then I took in that that was a line.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he quoted it. Or if you're like, so, do you want me to call you an Uber?
Oh shit.
It's even worse. Anyway, we went on a tangent there. This is not the case with Heard and Depp. They were in an actual relationship that was like established. You know,
Weren't they married?
I guess so. I think they were. Yeah, it was a divorce settlement apparently. So the $7 million was a divorce settlement. Yeah, so that's different. You know, like they knew each other at that point. They've already had these exchanges and these altercations. They have a history already. So what we're talking about, yeah, is very much the dating scene, like this like preliminary meet sometimes, and it really depends on the vibe, the energy, the kind of person, the type of person. Like it's a slippery slope. Be careful. You know, I guess the safest thing is, yeah, you make it clear you ask for permission, or you double check. And if it ends up that you ask for permission and you double check with a woman who doesn't like that, think about this, Deji. I'm going to ask you this specifically. You are the type of man to double check. If a woman doesn't like that, would you be interested in that woman? Is that the kind of woman that you would actually be interested in?
Oh, that's a good question. It would definitely change my perception of her, I think.
Yeah.
If she was like not into it, if she like actually didn't like it, if it was like something not used to or didn't mind,
Right.
but if she actually didn't like it,
Yeah.
like, okay, I was just like, why? Like, why is that so like deep for you? You know?
I once heard like women or a woman say, yeah, was once we were like on this thing and this guy asked me if he could kiss me, ruined the whole night, or something like that, or something.
I get that, but like,
Yeah.
yo, read the like, you know what kind of climate we're in right
Yeah. Well, yeah.
and that's an L I would gladly take.
Well, you hear about 90-10, right?
Yeah, exactly.
90-10. You don't even have to verbalize anything. You go in 90, she has to return the 10. Right? Like,
yeah.
That basically works. That basically works. I once did that long time ago. It was a first date. It was the only date. It was gonna end up being like the only, like, it was again off like a dating app. And I didn't go 90. I went like 80, 85. And I stopped too early.
Damn. So you're just like,
no, and she is like, so you're gonna kiss me or not? She said it because I stopped too early, and I was like, oh shit, taken aback. I'm like, well, yeah, I just wanted to make sure you wanted to. And yeah, well, at that scenario, it was reciprocated, but it was just poorly executed. I guess in my scenario, it was poorly executed.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little insight.
Oh, okay.
So my thing is, I ask if I can kiss you when I already know that you want to kiss me.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, no, like at the point where it's like, this is the point where you want to kiss me.
Yeah.
Like at that moment, that's when I'll like ask.
But why?
Because I feel like that almost like,
if you already know, why?
I feel like it's almost more of a turn on for the girl because like, oh my god, he's so summer ass.
So you think the mistake is when men have asked those women and the women are like, oh my god, he asked me. Can you believe that? Like, why did he ask me? He didn't actually know. That's what you're saying. Like, he's actually asking for permission.
Yes.
I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying there. If you know already. Like,
yes,
it can happen at any point. It's just a matter of when you choose to execute. But yeah, there are some men out there who will ask because they don't actually know.
No, yeah.
And that is
a
difference.
That is what it's like.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you don't even. Oh my god.
Like, how can you not even get me to the point where you know it's gonna be yes?
Ugh, right. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, I'm insulted that you think that you could ask at this point. Too early, bro. Anyway.
That shit's fucking so interesting. It leaves a lot of it can just like misinterpretation and confusion.
And I get it though. Like for someone who's had more practice and experience, it's easier because you can read things a lot more. You've been exposed to all these different like gestures and like body language and all that stuff. But if you're new to the game, or maybe you're just freshly out of a long-term relationship, you haven't dated in a while, man, like it's hard. It's like it's difficult.
Rough.
Yeah, it's rough. It's happened. Sometimes you might catch yourself like, wow, I'm having a great night. Like I'm lucky tonight. But then maybe you don't read it as well as you think you are, and like it's not as good as you think it is, or maybe it's better than you do, or I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, this has been an hour and a half. I think we can call it there. No, Deji, thank you for coming out and joining. I know
I'm gonna try to be on time.
timing wise. Was that from work? Like traffic?
No, I was just heading to like.
Who's
Had to
Ken?
run through. Huh?
Who's Ken? I think you.
Oh, is he? Oh shit! I didn't even say. Oh my god! I didn't even send the link.
Oh, he knew.
Fuck.
It would have been
Okay.
good. It would have been good.
He was just gonna tune in, but you know what? He can just like watch it because it'll still be playing on your channel.
Yeah. So next week, I don't know if I can do one next week. Yeah, I'm working. So the next one, the 65th, will be on June 17th, Thursday, June. What am I looking at? Oh, actually, no, I'm lying. I think I could do it next week. I'm not working super late next week, so never mind. Next week, Thursday. So, Digi, hopefully you can make it on time.
Next week, Thursday.
Yeah.
All
11
right.
p.m.
Sounds good.
We're gonna try to keep them at an hour. But thanks, guys, for watching. If you like the content, if you want to be part of the conversation, join us on Thursdays at 11 p.m. Comment down below if you have any kind of insights or any kind of like dating scenarios where you faced similar like gray area nuance altercations between you and these, the person you were trying to pick up. It's always cool to read stories like that. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Have a great one, guys. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Later.
Peace.